2.1, this meeting is being conducted via Zoom. That link has been provided to the public so that they can view the meeting, and we have confirmed that the feed is active and working. I have confirmed with Janet, our town clerk, that the meeting has been duly noticed and legal notice requirements fulfilled. Notice has been placed on the Town of Lewisboro website and included in the email distributions from the town. With me on this Zoom conference meeting from the Town of Lewisboro are members of the town board, Rich Sclarin, Jane Crimmins, Tony Gonsalves, and Dan Welsh. We have a quorum and can vote on any matters that come before the board. Also present are Town Attorney Town Attorney Greg Foschetti, Town Clerk Janet Donahue, Joel Smith, Facilities Maintenance Director. At the public comment periods, we ask that only the following persons will be permitted to speak: residents of the Town of Lewisboro or the Katona-Lewisboro School District, owners of property in the Town of Lewisboro, employees of the Town of Lewisboro. If you want to speak at the public hearing or make a public comment, please raise your hand at the appropriate time. To do that, if you're on Zoom, put a cursor at the bottom of the window and you should see an image of people labeled participants. Click on that to get a panel on the right-hand side with icons at the bottom. You can then click raise hand. Participants who have raised their hand will show up on the host screen in the order that they raised their hands. The host will then unmute them and tell each one when they have the floor. You may also have to unmute yourself if your microphone isn't active. We are asking that your video be off during the duration of the meeting and only turned on when invited to speak. If you have dialed in on a phone, you can raise your hand to indicate you want to talk by pressing *9. We will ask people to give their name and which hamlet they live in upon entry, and to keep their comments to 2 minutes. Our town clerk will be keeping time, and you will hear a timer at the end of 2 minutes. If someone is disrespectful or uses profanity at this meeting, they will be asked to leave the virtual meeting, just as they would be asked to leave a physical meeting. Please remember that your camera is on and profanity will not be tolerated in any form, including gestures and acronyms. We also ask that your comments be limited to the issues and not be attacks on individuals. Now, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of
America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I would like to open a public hearing on the tree ordinance. Does anybody wish to speak?
I have one hand up right now, Supervisor. I'm asking Bill Bongiorno to unmute. Bill, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm trying to start my video.
No videos. So
oh, no videos. Okay.
No videos. So just, yep, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, it's Bill Bongiorno from Vista. Good evening, Town Supervisor and members of the board. Thank you for your service to the town. I am against this new tree ordinance as well as the previous drafts. I agree that the town should be promoting conservation and preservation, which are accomplished in the current tree law passed in 1976 in recognition of the inherent value and necessity of preserving and protecting trees. I also agree with this law's intention that we need to balance the preservation and protection of trees against the rights of individual homeowner and residents to use, enjoy, protect their properties while being free of unduly burdensome government interference and restrictions. This proposed law fails entirely to balance the private property rights of our residents. Instead, it places onerous obligations on us under the scam of legislating clear cutting. To quote Councilman Gonzalez on the Facebook group Lewisboro Uncensored, posted this morning at 9:19 a.m., quote, cutting down a single tree is clear cutting per the definition in the proposed code, end quote. In plain language, clear cutting is to remove every tree from an area. That's what residents will understand this law to mean. Equating the cutting down of a single tree on a residential property with industrial clear cutting is simply deceitful. Yes, we should have zoning to protect against industrial clear cutting, and when we can, promote planting trees. But when it comes to residential property owners, as long as the cut tree does not trespass on another's property, it's a private property owner's right to do with it as they see fit. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Now I'm asking Ryan Dunn to unmute. Ryan?
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, I agree with the last speaker. It just seems very onerous to require all of these requirements to, cut down a tree on your property. I mean, we're property owners. We bought these properties. We're not developers. We have, we're paying our taxes. I'm not really sure why we're required to have to submit for permission to do something on our property that, it seems silly. I mean, we're not, it's not like I'm clear cutting, a forest. I have an acre plus, and I'm required to fill out a bunch of paperwork and pay a fee to cut down a couple of trees on my property, which just seems wrong. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. That appears to be it.
Right, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. I'd like to propose that we adopt the tree ordinance as proposed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to move on to the first public comment period. I would like this public comment period to cover every subject except cannabis, which will be limited to the second comment period when it will be the only subject for discussion. Does anybody wish to speak?
Yes, Peter. Right now I'm asking Simone O'Connor to unmute.
Good evening, Simone from Vista. There are substantive things I'd love to address this evening, but I need to use my 2 minutes allotment wisely. The screaming and gang-like behavior directed at me by 3 board members, not professional enough to listen to actual facts, as I was attempting to ask for clean and safe water from my 83-year-old mother and the Oak Ridge community, was absolutely abhorrent. This continued practice of cutting people off when they speak is intolerable. Reading rules at the beginning of every meeting regarding behavior and discussing disrespect is a waste of time. When someone is slandered and each and every board member sits back mute, allowing the offending party another opportunity to attack is plain unacceptable. When a woman at a prior meeting gave the finger to another town resident, Participating visually ceased immediately. However, when a false and damaging accusation is hurled at a town resident, it is not only permitted, but the individual is given a second bite of the apple shortly thereafter. Shame on each and every one of you town board members. Here is some free and useful advice. Next time you scream a legal term out in unison, perhaps you should take the time to look it up first, or maybe look up a more appropriate one. Try slander. Good evening.
Anybody else?
Yes, Peter.
Yeah, we got a whole lot.
There's a few. Bill Bongiorno, I'm asking you to unmute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello again, Bill Bongiorno from Vista. Last week, we had another power outage in Vista. This one was due to a truck hitting a single utility pole, affecting about 1,000 households. While this is an isolated incident, it is part of a much bigger problem of frequent, increased, and continuing power outages in Lewisboro because our power grid lacks resiliency and redundancy. Councilman Gonzalez in a Facebook thread last week said outages were down. It does not seem like outages are down. So I ask that you please provide the numbers to back this up. We just have not seen the results of the town board's efforts on this matter. I understand again from Councilman Gonzalez's Facebook post that you're in constant communication with NYSEG. Has Lewisboro participated in the most recent NYSEG rate case before the Public Service Commission? I'd love to read any public comments that the board sent on our behalf in this case, but I don't see any on the Lewisboro government website. Can the board explain how Lewisboro benefits from NYSEG's new capital plan that was submitted 2 weeks ago? We pay some of the highest electric bills in the country.
What?
Sorry. Not be content with just a $6 million project to replace 60-year-old utility poles at the end of their useful life. I look forward to your answers this evening or in writing in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next, I'm asking Sam Zafiro to unmute.
Hi, this is Sam Zafiro from Lewisboro. I found a comment made by Ms. Crimmins at the last town board meeting very disturbing. She could not recall the significance of Memorial Day. What does it say about our town that we spend time and money looking for ways to express pride for specific identity groups while we ignore that town board members don't know the meaning of Memorial Day? We are right now in this meeting engaged in a democratic process and disrespecting those that actually fought to preserve our democracy. I've lived in Lewisboro almost my entire life, and I am so embarrassed at how we've allowed this board to misrepresent our values. I hope everyone listening tonight reflects on the leadership of our town and pictures ourselves at the next Memorial Day parade, our heads bowed in silence. Is this who we deserve representing us? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sam. Next, I'm asking Jimbo to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Tonight, I would like to start off with an American history lesson that a certain town board member either slept through their American history class or opted out to take a class on neo-Marxism. Memorial Day, originally known as Decoration Day, originated after the American Civil War to commemorate all Union soldiers who paid the ultimate sacrifice in the belief that all men are created equal. The very first commemoration was May 1st, 1865, was from 1,000 freed slaves and accompanied by a regiment of United States colored troops from the Massachusetts 54th. They gathered in a former Confederate prisoner of war camp to consecrate a new proper burial site for the Union dead. They sang hymns and distributed flowers, which they dedicated to the martyrs of freedom. It's not all about 3-day holiday weekends or barbecuing tofu burgers and drinking cheap Chardonnay. It's about nameless men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice so a certain town board member can enjoy her freedoms and security. So I suggest revisit American history before it gets rewritten. I would like to thank a certain town board member for personally reaching out to me and explaining their concerns about the corrosive and dysfunctional town board and how certain town board members are single issue driven and not looking out for the best interests of the whole Lewisboro community. And lastly, hey Parsons, move your car. NYSED wants your tree. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now I'm asking Ryan Dunn to unmute.
Hi, yeah, I guess the last speaker kind of addressed what I was going to say is we're expected to, first off, let me start by thanking Tony Gonsalves for all his hard work on with the NYSEG and getting everything done to make sure the power stays on when we possibly can and to prevent future outages. He's been a godsend when it comes to the communication. There's nobody better on the town board than he is when it comes to relaying the information, helping out when you got a question. He's truly great at this. But I'd actually really like to know why Peter Parsons' wife is not being called out a little more about this. I mean, she's the one who's parking her car there. We're all told to, hey, you know what? Let's everybody do their part to make sure this stuff works. And we've got a town board member whose wife is actively preventing people from doing their job when it comes to this. And I just don't understand that. It seems like it should be something that's straightforward. It's the right thing to do. These guys are out there, working on the poles, working up in a bucket truck, trying to do their job. And you've got people actively preventing them from doing their job, and in fact, making it dangerous for them to do their job. And I think that's very irresponsible of a town board member. And by the way, this is my name is Tom Dunn. I'm Ryan Dunn's husband.
You're Ryan.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'm asking Jeremy Zittimer to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. This is Jeremy Zittimer from Golden's Bridge. I wanted to take a second to actually ask for a substantive update from the board, if you could, when you're during the polling of the board or any other point in the meeting, to give a substantive update on the Oak Ridge water situation. I was concerned at the last meeting about comments that I know were well intentioned, but I do have to be clear that they landed the wrong way about go consult your doctor if for you personally the water levels are damaging. From a disability justice perspective, this is really troubling because it is potentially creating a financial burden for town residents whose bodies are affected by the chemicals in the water that they're drinking, and that creates a really inequitable situation, which I don't really think is appropriate. I know that the town board cares a lot about disability and sticking up for those members of our community who are disabled or face medical or health challenges. I really appreciate Jane Crimmins' work with the ADA accessible playground, for example. So I know that this is something that the board cares about, but I do want to underscore that this issue crops up in the Oak Ridge water situation as well. And I really hope that the board will work diligently to find the source of the issue, so that regardless of anybody's medical conditions or their medical history, they don't have to worry about paying fees for understanding how their water is impacting them. So I really appreciate your time tonight. Just want to push everybody on the board to think about this and give an update on the work the board is undertaking later tonight. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Next, I'm asking Nick Jansky to unmute.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, hey, so just want to thank everybody. This is great. This is what democracy looks like. All the board members for volunteering their time to serve our town, everybody in this process, observing it, listening, and I mean, at heart, just trying to make a better Lewisboro. That said, I was happy today. I welcomed a brand new neighbor who just bought property adjacent to mine. And, we started talking about the town and about the tree ordinance. So one thing that came up, and, it was addressed, where we added that safety concern for that 100-foot buffer around a dwelling. So we were looking at his property that he just purchased, and his small pole barn has these two massive trees that are like threatening it. But, one of the trees at least looks fairly healthy. So I'm just curious. I looked up the legal definition of a dwelling, and it could mean any significant structure, or it could just mean where you sleep at night. So now that we have this law, I was just hoping that we could define, what counts as a dwelling. As I'm sitting here right now, I'm in the loft of my barn. Is this my dwelling? So, and is this a place where I, if the tree's leaning over me, that I can just use my discretion? We have a lot of these trees that took up huge root balls that go back all the way to Hurricane Sandy. And, sometimes a healthy tree could also become, what the tree guys call a widowmaker. So it's just something I know it wasn't clearly defined in the law, but, it's something we should consider, because we have a lot of these structures that we dwell in different ways besides the structure we sleep in. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you, Nicholas. Next, I'm asking Carol Cernak to unmute.
Hi, this is Carol Cernak, South Salem. I want to speak to the issue of the revised tree ordinance, the portion of the purpose of that ordinance, which I believe is 203-1, where the town is speaking how they're so inherently involved in protecting the environment and protecting trees and pollutants and natural wetlands and stuff like that. But then if you go over to the Salt Dome area and you see what's happening with Hickory Homes, that flies in the face of everything this paragraph says. Those trees over there between the cemetery and the Salt Dome property apparently don't matter because they've been killed. The roots have been clear cut down 20 feet. I appreciate Tony getting involved with my issues regarding Hickory Homes and the Salt Dome. He's the only town board member that has, so I appreciate that. I look forward to hearing the next steps that the town will be taking based on his meeting with the town officials and the engineering consultants that the town has paid for. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Carol. And next, I'm asking Barbara Mangione to unmute.
How is that?
We can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. I noticed under new business, we have an item for a resolution to waive fees for a fundraiser at the town park in support of Solid Treatment and Research Foundation. I just want to mention that I've had the honor of speaking to the mom who wants to coordinate this event. And she's really such a lovely person. I guess I'm just putting in my word that I hope that we can do something for her. She's relatively new to our community. She just moved here with her family in October, and her son suffers or has this ailment. And it is so extremely rare that there's only 1 or 2 dozen children or people in the world who have this. And every year she has a celebration of his life. And this is what he wants. This is what he likes. He likes to be around people. And she's done this for several years now and has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for research. So I'm just sitting here saying, I hope we approve this and allow this to go on, because it would be a wonderful event for a wonderful family and child. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. And next, I'm asking Dean Travolino to unmute. Dean?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Sorry, I missed the, I didn't realize that public commentary would be second, so I grabbed a cup of coffee and missed the wetlands or the tree ordinance. But it didn't make a difference because when I saw the vote, it was pretty much a done deal. What I don't understand, I understand there was some rush tonight because you wanted to stop some clear cutting being done down in Elmwood Road. But I took a ride down there this afternoon. All I saw was tree cutting coincident to NICEAG. So I'm not sure what that rush was. It's left us with what I think is definitely the most stringent tree ordinance and the most onerous of any of the watershed towns, North Salem or Pound Ridge, or Bedford, which is actually quite a bit more lenient. I'm not sure what that serves. I'm not sure about the rush. I do understand. I have to thank you guys. You put a lot of safety in there from some other ordinances. I should thank you for having done that. Some of the wetland stuff coming up looks like some positive steps also to unclog things. So I don't want to be a total naysayer, but it seems to me that this ordinance could be fixed with, and I sent you a note, some little changes. Maybe we could consider two things: making some revisions along the lines of what I mentioned earlier. I'm not sure if we can cut down 3 trees a year or no trees a year the way it reads right now. I'm not sure if the size of the lot matters, whether it's 1/4 acre or 30 acres. It's the same 0 or 3 trees a year, depending on how you read the ordinance. Maybe if you could tweak some of it, that would be a lot of a positive step. And also one last thing that someone earlier said, maybe a crib sheet that would explain this because it's hard to read. Whether it's me or people that I've talked to, a crib sheet so homeowners and contractors could understand the damn thing. But I also want to do credit that you did put a lot of safeguards in there. I'll bet borrowed from some other towns. One specifically that I would mention also, looking at that North Salem, very simple way to protect small farms, not ones that have ag districts, but backyard barns and backyard gardening, which is a backbone and a characteristic of Lewisboro. Thank you. Nice bell, Janet.
Thank you, Dean. All right, thanks, Dean. And that appears to be it. Supervisor Parsons.
All right, I'd like to move on to communications. First of all, I'd like to read a proclamation. And here it is. Is that, no, you can't really see it. But anyway, I've got it here. Resolution adopted by the Town Board of the Town of Lewisboro at a meeting held on April 12th, 2021. Whereas Tony Frasca joined the Lewisboro Volunteer Ambulance Corps, LVAC, on September 1, 1990, and has now completed 30 years of continuous service to the people of Lewisboro by being available to respond to calls for an ambulance, give emergency treatment when appropriate, and when necessary, transporting the patient to hospital. And whereas Tony Frasca has been the epitome of dependability as an emergency medical technician, and especially as the face of LVAC on Thursday nights, when he has responded to hundreds of calls and performed thousands of hours of duty. And whereas this has been of exceptional value during the last year of the COVID-19 pandemic, when LVAC has been a pillar of dependability for the community. And whereas this dedication to public service is an example to all and is deserving of public notice, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lewisboro in the County of Westchester in the state of New York, in recognition of the worthy service of Tony Frasca to the Town of Lewisboro, does hereby offer the thanks of its populace to Tony Frasca for his dedication to service for our residents, and be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of this April 12th, 2021 Town Board meeting for future generations to see, and that a copy be presented to Tony Frasca. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Tony, if you're here, thanks. And we will deposit the with the proclamation itself, either at your home or at LVAC. I don't know which is most convenient to you. Second, I would like to thank Peter and Jen Cipriano for donating $5,000 for Vista Field in order to reduce the amount of dog poop in that field by setting up making it easier for people to pick it up and deposit it in a bin specifically made for it. Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you very much, Peter.
Great.
I'd like to move on to the consent agenda. I'd like to ask for approval to the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would like to move on to unfinished business, a resolution amending the OSPAC Bridges resolution so that we omit the stage of getting design approval from the building inspector. The building inspector has made it amply clear to me that he, A, doesn't feel really qualified, and B, doesn't want to do this. So, in fact, we are going to leave that approval with OSPAC, which has people with a lot of experience of building bridges over streams. I'd like to propose a resolution which reads pretty simply. Resolved that the town board does authorize waiving the wetland activity permits and building permits for replacement and new trail wilderness bridges in the preserves, period. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to whip back to a second for a moment to communications. I have a letter here from Tammy Vezone, who is the Huron town clerk, but more important is Susan Haag, who is the president of the Town Clerks Association of New York State, congratulating the town clerk, Janet Donahue, for achieving the prestigious designation of RMC. Thank you, Janet.
You want to tell us a little bit more about what that designation refers to?
So it's a regional municipal clerk award.
Okay.
So you renew it every 5 years. So this is my
Great.
5th year, and you renew it by continuing your education and attending seminars and meetings. And
Wonderful.
Congratulations, Janet. I believe that was in the paper also, right?
it
Wasn't that right?
was. I didn't
saw
know.
that.
Yeah. So thank you.
There was one other thing which I skipped when we were discussing trees. I would like the town board to appoint an arborist, which is a requirement of the law. And the arborist I would like them to appoint is Wayne Cahilly, who is a consulting arborist and works with the town of Bedford, and until recently was the consulting arborist to the Bronx Botanical Gardens. His fee is $100 an hour, but his travel is free. I think that's a pretty good deal, and I'd like the board's approval to appoint this gentleman. I've got he is a certified arborist and a qualified tree risk assessor.
So moved.
Seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
That's great.
there had been considerable wish at the beginning of the tree process to have a consulting arborist involved.
Yeah.
I'd like to, people may remember that in the last meeting, we passed a wetlands law and sent it down to the county for approval. The counties approved it. And we also sent it to the CAC, who has passed their comments on to the planning board. And I now feel fairly confident that we will be able to have the public hearing on the amendments to the wetlands law on April 26, 2021. So I'd like to propose setting it for that date. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Dan, would you like to introduce
Yes.
who is the person who is going to make a presentation for Sustainable Westchester?
Yes, I would. So we're in a habit of coming by. It seems to be in the spring to kind of just give an update. And today, the newest member of our team, Paul Presendieu, will be giving that to you, and I'd love to welcome him to join us on stage here. If you could be made visible. Paul, you there? Are you?
We made him a co-host. There he is.
There he is.
Hold on, I'm gonna.
Great.
Okay.
Hello,
And
everyone.
I'll
Yeah.
just continue my intro just a little bit. Paul is new with us. He's just graduating from Purchase, but he's not new at all to sort of our work. He's been just a force of nature all around the county, working with the city of Mount Vernon, with New Rochelle, with the Federated Conservationists, leading with the National Student Environmental, what's the organization, Paul? Anyway, tons of stuff. So we are just really overjoyed to have him, and things are looking up for us because of it. But he's going to take the helm here now.
We're really nice people, Paul, even if we refer to it as tons of stuff.
No problem. I do appreciate you placing us at the beginning of the agenda, because you guys looks like you have a long evening ahead of all of you. So I guess, do I have screen sharing capacity for the PowerPoint? Okay, so let me just
Yeah. To do that screen sharing. Yeah.
all right, and let me hit F5. Okay, so all right, so I'll just go from right here. I guess everyone could see anything, and you guys could hear me, right?
Yep.
All right, so
Good.
yep. So my name is Paul Presendieu. I'm outreach coordinator for Sustainable Westchester, focus on the Westchester Power Program, which is why I'm here this evening, because part of our compliance with the Public Service Commissions means community engagement and letting municipalities know how things are going, especially as we do approach pretty important milestones in the contract renewal process. So I guess some of this may seem a little bit redundant. Let me minimize this right here. So just a little bit of background information on Sustainable Westchester. Sustainable Westchester is a nonprofit consortium. 44 of the local governments in Westchester County, which creates and administers socially responsible, environmentally sound, and economically viable solutions for member governments and their residents and businesses. So if you look at it, it's pretty geographically diverse coalition of municipalities, and we have 44 out of the 45. We only do not have the Village of Buchanan on our membership, but it's okay because we have Westchester County itself as a member of Sustainable Westchester. All right, so let me go to our next page. So just a quick overview of some of our programs. Obviously, you know about the Westchester Power Program, especially our community choice aggregation, which really allows us to really empower municipalities and negotiate with utility companies. We also have other programs which we're very proud of. Community Solar, which allows residents to really access solar technology without having to provide their own residential roofing space for the infrastructure of the solar capture technology. We also have programs in electrification solutions, such as energy smart homes, clean transportation projects. We have a emerging infrastructure in electric vehicles. We're able to offset those carbon emissions from transportation. Programs and basically residential oversight for overall grid efficiency. So sort of grid reward apps, and also the virtual power plant, and also programs in zero waste. Great literacy programs so that residents can know how they can support municipal leadership and garbage management, and also recycling literacy, which is very important so residents know what's recyclable, what's not, and also be made aware of the municipal recycling schedule so they can know when to bring out the cardboard, when to bring out recycling, and just really overall, like just basically the universal things that residents should know to really work hand by hand with municipal leaders such as yourselves to really maintain the and hold the line on the burden that's being placed on recycling facilities and overall garbage disposal. So let's go to the next quick overview about the Westchester Power Program. So it's really about Westchester municipalities taking charge of their energy future. Cities and towns and villages buy electricity in bulk for their residents and small businesses. We're able to set the criteria for the supply in regards to demanding the renewable technology to be in there in the grid, and also making sure that we're able to draw a line in the sand in regards to the cost of electricity per kilowattage per hour. We're also able to educate and advocate for clean energy, advancing local and New York State energy goals, and positions for certifications and grants, which is very, very important as New York State and the federal government really starts to really place an importance on renewable technology and making sure that grants are accessible to kind of eliminate some of the overhead costs that are there. And one of the things I'm really proud about with the state of Westchester is our education and advocacy, where we're able to really engage municipal leaders such as yourselves, but also residents in the community, neighborhood associations, residential homeowners, organizations, and really let them know how they're supposed to be able to read their energy bill and work with us by identifying how they can transition towards renewable energy and eliminate some of the unnecessary costs on their bills.
So Paul, when we use the term, you use the term aggregation. Aggregation is the same thing as buying electricity in bulk. That's simply what it is.
Yeah. So the term aggregate means coming together. So yes, so aggregation means coming together, buying is bulk. So it's the town of Lewisboro, through aggregating, could come together and purchase electricity for the entire municipality, as opposed to just you being a single residential homeowner in the town.
Thank you.
No problem. So just a quick overview about Westchester Power. We have 28 municipalities that are currently in our program, over 115,000 residents and small businesses that we're providing energy for. If you look at the geographic map, the blue are the municipalities that do have Westchester Power, and the yellow are the communities that we're currently in the process of talking to have them join this revolutionary program for renewable energy. Very proud to have the town of Lewisboro as well, part of our coalition. So just a quick overview of some of our performance stats in regards to greenhouse gas mitigation. Countywide, Westchester Power Program has been responsible for the mitigation of 830,000.
And I take responsibility for letting the Pound Ridge numbers slip into the slide.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's pretty interesting. I just realized that. Would you happen to know the Lewisboro numbers on the top of your head?
So they're going to be about another 50% higher than that at least.
Okay, so that seems pretty good. So we're looking at for the town of Lewisboro, we're looking at 6,300 in terms of
performance. And then also for, I guess you could say, for the CO2 cars taken off, we're looking at 1,300 and 1,345, you could say, in terms of cars taken off the road for 1 year. And also for the seedlings, we're looking at 105,000 trees planted in seedlings for every 10 years. So I guess for the purpose of this, we'll just refocus on the countywide statistics, which is something we're really proud of ourselves on, because it's really important that we're able to provide some sort of a tangible example of the environmental impact that we're having. And we know that CO2 is pretty much the universal indicator for our greenhouse gas emissions. Cars being taken down the road are very important, especially as we discuss urban traffic congestion, and trees are pretty much, you could say, the super crop, I guess you could say, in really mitigating our climate related issues. So in terms of our Westchester Power, our clean energy sources does come from New York State hydropower. And if you're looking at the visuals that are provided here, these are the towns that live in proximity to these hydropower utility devices. And what's very beautiful about this is that, you know, they really were able to preserve the integrity of their natural beauty, accessing hydropower, and us relying on this and on hydropower isn't having any negative impact on these communities, especially if you compare this with the impact the impact fossil fuel companies or fossil fuel energy suppliers would have. You know, this is pretty much the antithesis with hydropower really preserving the preservation of natural resources while facilitating our ability to transition into renewable energy at an economic, you could say, feasible and lens of feasibility. Just to keep going on the benefits of some of the Westchester Power, we're a community nonprofit, not an energy service company, which is very, very important because it allows us to pretty much protect some of our customers from some of the predatory practices that have long been reported by ESCOs. We are able to work with ESCOs in regards to our identification and setting up of supplies for municipalities, but we also are able to hold the line and protect them, protect some of our customers. Residents maintain the choice to stay in the CCA or return to the utility at any time. This is something that's able to be done with no fees or costs. If you want to be part of the community choice aggregation program for the town of Lewisboro, you're able to do so. But if at any moment you want to leave and you want to return back to NYSEG as a default supplier or to another ESCO, that's something that every resident has the liberty to do so at any time. We also have cost control stability in terms of our ability to buy in bulk. And this is very important because it allows us to have very competitive prices for large customer bases. And that does attract the best market prices. So we're able to really set the bar and say that your prices for kilowattage per hour can't exceed this limit. And it really is able to really have us hyper focus on the prices that are needed to support our residents. And the supplier is choosing through a public bidding process. There's no penalties or termination fees, as I said before, no surprises. Fixed rate ensures against validity and price spikes. And notice some new price we set before contract renewal. And this is all for the transparency of residents, so they know what they're going to be paying. There's not going to be any price spikes as you see in other variable rates, where you might be paying 4 or 5 kilowattage per hour 1 month, and then it jumps up to 9 or nearly 10 the next following month. So having that stability of knowing what you're going to be paying really allows you to really fully commit yourself to some of the long-term financial planning that you may need to be engaged with, especially if you're trying to fix in environmental stewardship with your ability to make your day-to-day financial plans meet. Let me go to the next slide. Just to continue going, we really pride ourselves on our support and accessibility. We have in-office support Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can email us 24/7 at info@stateofwestchester.org. We do take as much time as needed to answer questions, and we do pride ourselves on having that high level of customer service, because that's really what allows us to distinguish ourselves from other organizations in Westchester County and really prove to customers that we're not an ESCO. So, and also Spanish language customer services. I'm a Spanish speaker myself, so I'm able to jump on call and help customers. And we do have other people on our Sustainable Westchester staff that are multilingual and can really help with, climbing over some of the cultural barriers that some of the literacy resources and renewable energy are not able to go through freely. And most importantly, mitigating climate change. It's really what we're here for. We have offset hundreds of thousands of metric tons of carbon dioxide. Our participation helps municipalities achieve clean energy, community certification, and position themselves for grants. And already 26 municipalities have chosen the green supply as their default. And this is very important. very important information, and especially leadership on your part for the town of Lewisboro, as you're seeing New York really set ambitious climate goals through the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, the CLCPA, of us having to be at 70% renewable by 2040, by 2030, and be at 100% carbon-free emission by 2040. Very ambitious goals, but it's really important that we have municipalities such as yourself positioning yourselves for grants to really eliminate some of the economic barriers that municipalities may face as they try and achieve some of those statewide goals.
Paul, what does clean energy community certification mean, and what does that allow us to do or not do?
So the CEC Clean Energy Certification, it's a new program for New York State. And these certifications allow for you to basically engage in a point-by-point based system and access grants for new development projects for the municipality within renewable technology. This includes the installation of solar farms, the installation of wind turbines. Basically, this clean energy community certification allows for there to be more of a equitable playing field, in a way you could say, where municipalities are being, I guess you could say, scaled on what they're able to do based upon the resource and historical perspective of these communities. So it's basically a point scaling system similar to the climate smart community process, where you have the bronze, silver, and gold level. But the clean energy community is pretty much models that, but it's more in terms of clean energy programs in total, as opposed to the climate smart community, which deals with, flood mitigation, urban forestry, all the overarching issues in climate change. But this specifically deals with renewable energy. Okay. And your participation within the Westchester Power Program, it provides, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, 1,500 points,
right?
Which is one of the most amount of points that you can receive within the clean energy community program.
Yeah, it's 1,500, and then there'll be additional 500 available when the opt-out community solar piece goes into play in the second half of the year.
Yep, I think that's gonna be mentioned later on in the PowerPoint as well, too, in the presentation. So let me go to the next slide. All right, and just speaking on kind of, you can say the advocacy and education, historical use in terms of energy consumption. And maybe some of you may have heard about this, been getting a couple of complaints throughout the entire COVID pandemic. NYSEG has been engaged in estimated billing, which has allowed them to, basically, I guess, retain some of their workforce at home and not have to check the meters on residential units. But this has really been, I guess you could say, a little bit of a mistake, if you want me to be honest, to speak frankly, because now we're realizing that they have underbilled customers and are now trying to play catch up, which is why some of you may have heard about customers complaining about their energy bill being more expensive these next couple of months, because of NYSEG historically underbilling based upon utility usage data from the 2019-2020 cycle. Which is obviously is going to be lower because more residents are home, more AC devices are being used, more electronic devices. So this is really, we have really been at the forefront, fielding calls from customers from NYSEG communities, letting them know about this, letting them know that if you have a normal utility bill that's about $150, and you get that letter in the mail and you're already getting paid $60, make sure that you take that extra $90 that you're saving, put it to the side, call NYSEG and let them know that this is what your bill is, and correct that, because that $90 that you didn't pay could come back to bite you on the next bill, and you may not be prepared for that. So we really have been priding ourselves on fielding those calls to customers and letting them know about that, because that has been a very serious issue as of late.
Excuse me for a moment,
yes.
But having received a very significant number of calls from people who have suddenly been surprised.
Yes.
Everybody should be aware that if they pick up the phone and call NYSEG, they can, in fact, negotiate very easily payments over time if the payment is onerous, that they have suddenly been given for 1 month.
Yeah, this is important to understand, because you see these big bills and you think like you're paying more. What actually happened is you underpaid And you see in this graph here, everywhere where there's an E, that's an estimate. So instead of estimating every other month, they're doing extended estimate periods. So those underestimates are building up. And then that big spike you see is basically just a catch up. I mean, it's what you would have paid anyway, but it would have been distributed more normally. And of course, people don't necessarily notice when the bill's a little bit lower each time, but then when it jumps up, it's certainly a shocking thing. We're getting a lot of calls on that. And we throw this in here just because it's part of the education stuff that we do.
And just to add, Dan, NYSEG does prefer that people self-report. So you do have options for self-reporting online via text or via phone. And when you do that, this graph is more, it's more level.
Smooths
You're
out.
not going to see these spikes with the estimated readings.
Sounds good.
Okay, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, so just a quick transition into Westchester Power rates and performances, but I'm happy to hear that you guys are on it and that you really are proactive with helping with that community education aspect as well, because it's very important. So Westchester Power rates and performance. So just to give you a quick overview, we offer two options in power. Obviously, the green supply, which is 100% renewable New York State hydropower, and our basic supply, which is a mixture of fossil fuels, some renewable, but comes at 6.72 cents per kilowatt per hour, as opposed to the 7.19 cents per kilowatt per hour for the 100% green supply. And these are very, very competitive rates based upon these being universal for the entire municipality to be able to access. So these are one things that we really pride ourselves at Westchester Power, having really great rates, and these rates are going to be here for the next year. These are 1 year left on this contract, so we're going to be entering at the end of the close as we approach the summer and towards the close of this year. We're going to be entering a new contract negotiation period where we'll have another reverse bidding and find out what the new rates will be for green supply and our basic supply as well too. Just to give you overview of NYSEG and our fixed rate. If you follow the Westchester Power, the red line, which is above the yellow line, this is kind of an overview of how we establish our fixed rate. It kind of goes as an average cost for the purchases throughout the entire year, but this is just a little bit of a visual so you can see how the fixed rate allows you to kind of maintain that level of trajectory that you'll see through the ups and downs of the variable rates throughout the you could say the fiscal year. And just to by the numbers, and for median accounts, we're over 100, we're over 1,100 kilowatts were used per month. In terms of standard rates, you're looking at $7.71. 100% renewable, you're looking at $11.76. Obviously, these numbers have risen since our launch, but these really shows the economic feasibility of these programs by you being able to access this energy at a very economically competitive price.
And we are behind the utility at this point. We know that we went through a period, as you just saw in the graph there, where we were significantly behind. The gas prices dropped out. But you see, if we go back to launch, the average person is a few dollars behind if they've been through it through the whole thing. And so we're hoping to pick up some of that. The rates, the NYSEG rates are starting to raise again.
Sounds good. And Westchester Power, as I mentioned before, it's a foundation for other initiatives in renewable energy. For example, community solar, which we had a subtitle of more green energy and savings, which further leverages the power of aggregation, has additional environmental benefits, drives demand for new solar development, which could help with the establishment of a more circular economy within the town of Lewisboro. It complements the Westchester Power program by you being able to access solar energy without having to, sacrifice any residential space or roofing for the installation of solar capture technology. It increases access and equity in renewable energy, guaranteed savings of up to 10% on solar credits, and no upfront installations or payments or cancellation fees. And this is really important because it's really it really allows us to kind of eliminate some of the economic barriers that people may experience or may be apprehensive about when going into solar, getting into renewable energy. There have been some social economic issues in regards to people being able to access renewable energy, and community solar really has that blanketed approach that allows people of all socioeconomic backgrounds to access this without having to put up front their own residential space for the installation of technology, which has been really good.
I think we've got about 180 households in Lewisboro that have signed up so far, something like that.
That's good. And also in 2021, consolidated billing is going to be integrated in community solar due to the Public Service Commission has ordered utilities to pay for consolidated billing for community solar in early 2020, now mid-year 2020. And it's going to offer credits on an opt-out basis through the community choice aggregation. It greatly expand access to savings and environmental impact, removes barriers for low-income customer participation, and expanded customer base will attract and drive accelerated solar development. And this is great because it kind of eliminates that two-bill system where you have to, receive your solar your credits from the leased solar space, and then having to kind of place it into the formula of your normal delivery billing. That's going to reduce the price. Now everything's going to be simplified in one bill. So do your community choice aggregation and the community solar, you'll be able to see your bill be even more competitive. And between both of them, it's going to really show that economic feasibility in programs that are in the best interest for the town of Lewisboro's overall environmental health.
Hey, Paul, I have a question on the solar credits. Is that the same thing as the community distributed generation credit, CDG?
Well, no.
Yeah, well, it's the same. It's a subset of CDG. CDG, okay. Community Distributed Generation, is the overall program structure set out by the state. And so it could be community solar, but for example, you could have community wind too. So any kind of renewable resource can be structured into this kind of community subscription-based service.
Right. So in my case, I did sign up for the community solar, and I do have the CDG credit on the bill. So that's specific to the community solar program that I signed up for.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes, that's what you see. It's the CDG. It is kind of obscure. Not everybody's going to recognize what that is. We struggle constantly with the bill and the way things are presented. It's not meant for mere humans consumption, but that's part of our job to help clarify those things.
Well, it was very noticeable. I just got the bill yesterday. It was a $35 credit on my bill. So it just kicked in the month before, but this month, I guess it was a full month of that credit.
Okay. So you got that credit for $35, and now you're going to get the debit for that less 10%.
Right.
So you're going to pay over $31.50 and retain the $3.50 as savings.
Correct.
So that's the way that works.
Right.
Kind of a crazy system, but what Paul's showing you here, when we get consolidated billing, that all happens in one shot. Instead of having a two-part transaction, you just get the net credit, and you don't have to deal with these second transactions. So we're really
I don't think I've seen the debit transaction yet.
Yeah, they're always going to do it after you get the credit. They want to keep you cash positive.
Okay.
That would be good, Dan, if it could be done in a clearer fashion.
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, I'm getting it, but I do not begin to understand what they're doing.
Yeah. No, we think everyone who is now in the opt-in program in this fashion, when the consolidated billing comes, you'll still, continue on with this relationship, but it will be a single credit. So Tony would just have that $3.50 credit on his bill, no second transaction, none of the two-way things going on. It'll be much easier to understand.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Sorry, Paul.
No problem. Thank you, Danny. So it helps to have your boss as a sitting councilman, I guess, sometimes.
Is that Supervisor Warren Lucas cutting the ribbon?
It is. Yes, it absolutely
is.
This was one of the earlier projects that we were involved with. It's actually on a horse farm in North Salem.
Okay.
It's small units, about 135 kilowatts or something like that. I think they've subscribed maybe 20 families right around the area. But it was a lot of fun because it sort of brings the whole community together. Here you have this horse farm providing energy to its neighbors, saving money for them. It was a really uplifting thing.
Right.
All right, so let me just go to our next slide. And just about grid rewards, I guess you could say it's one of the programs I mentioned before. What it really brings more efficient grid management, just basically through the accessibility of a mobile application on your phone. It really facilitates you to save money, earn cash, also eliminate the dependence on peaker plants, which is a huge steps towards environmental justice. And as many of you may or may not know about peaker plants, but they're these dirty plants that are predominantly found in environmental justice communities. They're predominantly comprised of people of color. And when these plants go on, they really have devastating impacts on the overall quality of life in these communities. And through this Grid Rewards app, you're really basically to find out the moments where there's a high demand on the energy grid. And you'll be able to receive an economic return on investment and getting paid through the supplier based upon your ability to cut back on energy usage during these peak times on the grid. This is basically you. This is you probably turning your AC down a couple of notches during the summer, or by you turning your heater down a couple of notches during the winter. But it really shows that by you basically giving back towards the grid, you're going to save a lot of money. And you have a lot of testimonials of residents receiving checks over $100 at the end of the year. When anything helps out, as you may know, as we approach this COVID-19 pandemic, and we see other things being exacerbated and be brought to the forefront in terms of economics. But this Grid Rewards really brings that accessibility and of you being able to help out just basically through mobile technology, with our applications being both on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store as well too.
Now we're kind of this is a kind of a preview slide because this depends on the advanced metering. It's all deployed in Con Ed now. NYSEG has not completed its advanced metering deployment, and it's probably will be lucky to get it in 2022. So this is just to tell you, as soon as that happens, we intend to expand this program. And it's just another example of how the basic platform has provided a launch pad for a lot of cutting edge programming.
Yep, and just to renew and just Westchester Power, the renewal process overview. So 2021 contract goals through NYSEG. We set the criteria and evaluate bids based upon several key pillars. One is 2 supply rates. Obviously, we have the basic supply and the green supply. We also have fixed rates, which locks in the amount that you will be paying per kilowattage per hour in your household. We do allow them to not allow them to exceed a certain level of pricing, and also making sure suppliers are making a commitment to New York State renewable energy credits, which is very, 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 very important that we have our renewable energy coming from vetted suppliers in New York State. Moving forward, this is a kind of a Gantt chart of some very, very important, very important dates that are coming up. But the next date is going to highlight some of the more key milestones or key dates with NYSEG. July being the memorandum of understanding that we're going to be signing. July 30th specifically being the request for the proposal process to beginning. Early October, notification letters being mailed out to residents, and December 1st, the enrollment beginning as well too. So these are pretty much the important dates as we proceed forward with the town of Lewisboro towards engaging in the new reverse bidding auction, identifying what are the great prices, finding a new energy supplier, which would be very exciting because we have other NYSEG territories, and we also have the town of Yorktown, which is also looking. I don't know if I'm free to share this now, Dan, but Yorktown is also in the process of joining us and looking to join our coalition of NYSEG territories. So that would really help out. But these are just basic, very, very important dates because, as I mentioned before, the current price that we have are locked in this year.
So we need to begin the renewal process for the 2022 fiscal year.
Do you think that we're going to have as tough a time getting good bids as we did last time? Or are the power companies more confident going forward?
It's really hard to say, like, right, if it was today.
I was asking you to put your neck in the noose.
Yeah, if we went out today, there's still a lot of uncertainty built in. But the good news, I think, is that some major players that had yet not picked up on the CCA market, on the aggregation market, are now coming in. So for that, on that sense, we expect a little additional competition. And we're also getting more and more attention from the state, so that they might help us a little bit with the overall, context around the state. So I'm optimistic that it'll be a really healthy bid, but exactly where the prices end up is always a matter of futures markets and things like that.
Thank you, Dan. Okay.
Yep.
Is that where we are now?
Well, we're not here yet. We're not
okay.
Here. It's just a little overview of the reverse auction, just so you guys can have a little awareness of it, of real-time bidding. There's total transparency, and with all stakeholders can watch. This process has really allowed us to attract more bidders and make more competitive, make more competitive marketplace, which will result in lower prices for customers, and making sure that we have a transparent record of all proceedings. And as many of you may or not know, but the reverse auction starts at higher prices and then going into lower prices based upon the supplier's ability to provide those lower prices, and also their desire, which is more importantly, to gain municipal contracts, which is very, very important for these renewable energy suppliers. And basically the customer notification process, which is very, very important. We have a robust program in outreach with a strong emphasis on digital outreach. We also do make sure that we maintain our connections with county and local press, social media. We're on all social media platforms, and also digital collateral and consumer education video series. You can head over to Westchester, to our website, westchesterpower.org, and also check out our video archives within our YouTube channels, and also our social media platforms as well too. And we have numerous virtual community education sessions, transitioning to in-person events as allowed, as we start to see the enter into the light at the end of the tunnel from our COVID-19 health pandemic. And as I mentioned before, our community education is very, very fundamental and is a cornerstone of what we do as State of Westchester. Because if we don't educate members of the community along with municipal leaders such as you, then we're pretty much operating at half capacity, because it's through the education of people, letting them know what's happening and what they can do. That's how we allow everyone to really embrace that style of being a forward thinker and work side by side with local government leaders to make the changes that need to be made, because we're going against the fossil fuel industry and really are making the commitments to save the, the preservation of our natural resources for future generations in not only Lewisboro, but Westchester County as a whole. Let me go to the next slide, and I think that's about it. So I guess thank you all for giving me a time out of your very busy agenda to talk, give you this brief presentation. I guess if you have any questions, now would be the perfect time to ask me, or yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, I asked my questions as we went along, which is probably rude.
No problem.
Anybody else? You're looking wise, Rich. Does that mean anything?
What's that? Well, I have some issues with the presentation. It wasn't what I expected it to be.
Okay. Well, you weren't making it.
Okay. Well, we could certainly, if there's a need to supplement any kind of information after the fact, we will put that together for you, Rich. Just let us know, where we need to beef it up.
No, that's not really the point, but I'm gonna save it for another venue.
Very good.
Yeah, I will mention Richard. If obviously you know Dan as a colleague of yours, but my email is paul@sustainablewestchester.org. And if you want to email me or any information that we missed out of the presentation, you can feel free and I'll provide those resources to you.
That's not really my concern. I'd just like to leave it for right now if I could.
Okay.
Paul, thank you so much. It was a really informative presentation. You're right. It's not repetitive because you've got new stuff going on all the time, but we have had the presentation several times, and yet I found your presentation really engaging, and the quick math with Pound Ridge to Lewisboro, I had a hard time keeping up with that. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jade.
Which was a backhanded way of saying, way to go, Dan.
It was like you were reading my mind, Dan, I swear. When it said Pound Ridge, and I was like, did I blink? Did I do something?
Way to quick fix up Dan's screw up, Paul. Okay.
Good man, Paul.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was like
Thank
that.
you,
So
Paul.
you guys make a good team. Anyway, nice to meet you, and thanks for coming. Great presentation.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. So I'll stop the screen share and I'll, yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a resolution to waive fees for a fundraiser at the town park on May 23rd, 21, in support of Cellar Treatment and Research Foundation. I'd
So
like
moved.
to, what?
I'm fine with it. So moved.
Okay, I'd like to thank Dave Alfano for bringing this to our attention and introducing Jessica Klein Foglio to the town in this way. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I just wanted to thank Barbara Mangione for voicing her support of this in the first public comment. And
okay,
this is something that I think we're really happy to do as a town. So that's my discussion. Aye.
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 It's kind of an easy one to say aye to, quite honestly.
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to propose a resolution approving installation of trench drains and other minor changes to the town kiddie pool for $8,500. What we're really doing is getting rid of some obvious tripping points which don't fit well with a kiddie pool. And
so it's primarily a safety issue?
Yes.
Okay.
Primarily a safety issue so that the kids don't trip.
Peter, Jessica had her hand up here. I don't know if she wanted to say a few words about the Cellar Foundation.
Oh, you are welcome to speak, Jessica. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Okay, let me ask her to unmute. Jessica? Jessica, I'm asking you to unmute, please.
She unmutes by doing?
Down at the bottom left, Jessica, on your screen.
Bottom left-hand corner, you put your mouse over it, you'll see a little microphone. Click that. Maybe.
Joe's asking her too. Doesn't seem to be working.
Has somebody got a cell
wait,
phone?
She just unmuted. Wait, she just unmuted.
Okay.
Jessica? Jessica?
Are you guys still there?
Yeah.
Yes, hi, Jessica.
I'm sorry, it's Jessica Klein Folio. How are you?
Hello.
Good, Jessica.
I wish that I could put my video on, but I don't know how. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. We moved from the city in December 1st. And so far for this event, I have a disabled petting zoo coming with 3-legged animals to pet. I have pony rides. I have Miss Wheelchair New York. I have Miss Junior Wheelchair New York. They're beauty queens in wheelchairs. And my goal for this is just to be an uplifting community event. I know that the Lions Club has offered to go ahead and flip burgers and hot dogs. I'd like to thank David Alfano for donating some cars, some cop cars to serve for kids to run through and blast the sirens, as well as the Lewisboro Fire Department. I went to the Juilliard School, so I have fancy friends. I have a friend, RJ Lewis, who's been on Broadway for magic. So he's coming to do a magic show. And honestly, Dr. Stephen Walkley, he's the head of the Rose F. Kennedy Center for Einstein University. He actually lives in the neighborhood. I don't know if you guys know that. And he's going to come and accept any the funds that we raise for him. So this is really just an uplifting community event, $10 a person. And I hope that people come and just know that we stand with the unwavering belief that no disease is too rare for research and viable science. And I thank you for coming and for giving us this opportunity. And we came from New York doing these huge events and with resounding success. And I hope to bring it here. And it's just an uplifting community event. So thank you so much.
Wow. Wonderful.
So beauty queens in wheelchairs, come on out and see them. So thank you so much. And our son, Ben, we're just going to go ahead and uplift his life that he's with us another year. So thank you so much. I wanted to take my video up so you could see me, but I don't know how, and it's okay at this point, it's late. So, and I want you guys to get on with your meeting. So thank you so much. We're honored to be a part of this community, and however we can uplift you guys, we are happy to do so.
All right. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too.
You too,
Bye.
Jessica. Bye.
Ooh, welcome to Lewisboro. Just your voice at the town board meeting was uplifting. So we're looking forward to you.
All right. The next thing on the agenda is a discussion regarding recognition of May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Basically, this is a request to post a banner and ribbons. I am going to propose that the banner be at Honor True, where there is currently a banner on the barn facing the entrance as you drive in. And I was thinking that the ribbons could be at the town park, on Main Street in South Salem, on Boughton Road, on Elmwood Road, whatever you like. But on town roads, which makes it easier. Dave, would you like to say anything?
Yes, Peter. Hi, everybody.
Chief
Alfano, Lewisboro Police. Real quick, mental health is extremely important to the Lewisboro Police Department. And I'd like to remind everyone that we're here to help. Obviously, everyone knows May next month is mental health awareness. And there's several resources available. They'll be posted on our social media and on the town's website. LPD officers receive annual training in mental health and crisis intervention. During the month of May, we'll be putting mental health stickers on all of our patrol vehicles and green ribbons on the trees outside of our headquarters to support and raise awareness. And if anybody in the community has any other resources or input, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
And Peter, if I can add, Janet Hennigan, who was the person representing the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Westchester, has been our contact over the years in terms of helping us with the ribbons. And now we have a South Salem resident, Lauren Torrey, who is also a National Alliance on Mental Illness of Westchester member. And so she's going to be helping out with some of these efforts as well.
That's good.
Yep.
Janet Hennigan is here and has her hand raised.
Oh, Janet, that's right.
Janet, speak away as soon as you can
Yep, I'm
mute
asking
yourself.
Janet to
Oh,
unmute.
there I am. I
She's
don't know if the
unmuted.
video can show. Anyway, I don't think the video is showing. Anyway, hi. Yes, I'm Janet Hennigan. I've been in town for 18 years and a very passionate mental health advocate. And I've been involved with NAMI's ribbon campaign to raise awareness for mental health in May for the last 5 years. And yes, Lauren Torrey, another resident, she lives in South Salem, is going to, I guess we're going to do it together, and we're going to, I'll pick up ribbons from NAMI and we'll hang them in the places that Mr. Parsons mentioned. And in the past, I've gotten permission from the school district to do that. So I guess, I think Lauren's lined up a lot of volunteers. So if we have a good amount of support, we're gonna make it big. And so, again, the plan was to do it at like the town offices, the town buildings, and the town parks. And then certainly on Boughton Road in front of the, I don't know, sorry, I'm an LES alum. I'm going to call it LES, in front of the police department in the town and the town offices there. And in the past, we've also hung them at the various Orchard Square and Golden's Bridge and Oak Ridge shopping centers. And I have contacts for that. So we'll see what kind of resources we have. But just to remind everybody that NAMIWestchester.org has a lot of wonderful mental health resources, and they're a great gateway to navigating the mental health system and just various resources for support in Westchester. So I will share that information, and just thank you for your continued support of this. And obviously COVID-19 has impacted everyone's mental health, and anyone who's been struggling already is especially vulnerable. So thank you again. And so just the banner, then you guys will take care of hanging the banner, and we'll take care of hanging the ribbons. That's my understanding, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just one comment. I didn't mean to exclude the shopping centers. I was just not mentioning them because I don't have the power to agree for the shopping centers, but you apparently have already got arrangements with them, so that's great.
Yeah, so I will, now that once we're going forward with the town, then I'll reach out to the other groups, including the school district, and we'll see. We'll see how the I think the schools and the locations we mentioned in town are a big impact, and just if we can have conversations about it. The other thing I did want to remind you that NAMI, they have a lot of resources online, but they also offer community education programs on mental health. So something to consider in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Janet.
Next item.
Peter,
Oh.
I never got who seconded the installation of the trench drains. Did we finalize
Will somebody
that?
second the trench drains?
The 8,500? Okay.
Tony has seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next one.
Oh, wait, we haven't finished voting on the town park, the $8,200. Rich had said it was for safety, and then we got interrupted. And so I just wanted to, does that mean that that interactive playground at the pool is going to be open this summer?
The interactive, yes. You mean the place where I pull on a cord and the water comes over your head?
I mean, the place where we just are allocating $8,200 of funding to fix for safety issues?
Yes, that is the kiddie pool.
Oh, okay. So that was not on last summer because of COVID. So I'm just,
right.
As we borrow this money, I'm wondering if that's with the plan to open it this summer, or if that's a cost that
we are planning to open it this summer. We are planning, we already have got a bid for 8,500. And we are planning to follow through on that bid.
Okay.
Now we've got town board agreement. Quite honestly, I think it should be a relatively quick job at the kiddie pool. Next item, trees.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question again about the mental health awareness? I apologize.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, I guess Dave Alfano mentioned green ribbons. And so in the past for NAMI, they've been white ribbons with Mental Health Awareness Month. And I guess I wanted to maybe clarify what the police department was planning, just to make sure there's not obviously it's the same message, but just to make sure there's no confusion as to, I guess, the symbolism.
Sorry,
I must admit, I thought they were pink ribbons.
Green stickers here that say this.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Okay.
So I
those
probably
are-
said
those-
green ribbons. I'm sorry.
Those are
You have
magnets,
green
right?
stickers and we have white ribbons. Is that right? Or you mentioned ribbons too, but you mean
Yeah,
sticker
I
ribbons.
think I mixed up the colors, but yeah, the white ribbons, and these are the green stickers that will be on the back windows of the police cars.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. That's all. Appreciate that clarification.
Does that work, Janet?
Yes, that's fine. I just, when he said ribbons, I didn't know if literally he was having ribbons made that were going to be just a little bit different message from what we're doing for NAMI, but it's all the same. It's all the same message. Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to trees for a second. The highway department puts out for bid every year in order to get assistance with cutting trees when necessary and Jeff Lipinski with Vista Tree won a year ago. This year, nobody bid. So I have suggested to Peter that he puts out another request for bids, and that in the meantime, we authorize Jeff Lipinski to continue at his current rate until such time as either he wins the bidding or somebody else wins the bidding to continue. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second, since I see Greg nodding.
Well, this was Greg's suggestion.
Okay, no wonder.
I was just going to steam ahead and forget it, but he said, no, you need to have another bid. You need to have
That makes sense.
Another appointment. Next.
Okay, I seconded it. And
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, next, I want to move on to grants for a little. We have Sean Patrick Maloney has recently sent us a list of possible ways to apply for grants via his office. I'm gathering quietly that the House of Representatives has gone back to their old habit of handing out goodies, bluntly, to their towns who ask for them. But it's a very limited amount now. I would like, in fact, to propose that we should go for 2 grants, which we seem to fit. So I would like a resolution supporting a grant request to Senator Sean Patrick Maloney for a community project funding for for the Department of Health and Human Services for a children's play area, which will address the needs of disabled children. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's great.
I would like to propose a second resolution supporting a grant request to Senator Sean Patrick Maloney for a community project. What?
Said
Community. Did I say senator? I meant to
He's a
say
congressman.
to congressman. Well, why not promote him?
The state senator? Oh, you mean like overall state senator? Got it. Go ahead. Congressman, go ahead.
A grant request to Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney for a community project funding from the Energy and Water Development Subcommittee to install carbon filtration in the Oak Ridge water plant. Do I have
second?
What?
Resounding second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I
There
just
is
make a note that yes, I really appreciate we're taking this opportunity for the Oak Ridge water system. And I do feel in a way that cards have been shown a little bit that there is money, coming out of this COVID, and that we might not be able to use it in some of the ways that it's intended for municipalities, but we certainly can use it. And we certainly do need this money to fix our water, which is a health issue. So
yes, and there are 3 places where we can go for water for Oak Ridge, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I think the plan is to go to all 3.
Yeah, great.
Because it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think we're dealing with 1.2 million, Tony?
That's at least, yes.
At least, okay.
We're still working the numbers.
All right.
And if I could just add, so this is, I was reading over the documentation from Sean Patrick Maloney's office, and I'm actually going to be on a call tomorrow evening. It's a Q&A related to these grants. So this is, for the first time in many years, the House Appropriations Committee is accepting these community project funding requests for fiscal year 2022. So once these are submitted, they're going to go in front of Congress to get approval. And there is a limited number of projects that each congressman can submit. So we will be up against others, but we're definitely going to do our best to push this through.
So the concept, this is a potential financial funding opportunity for the projects we've talked about.
Correct. It's
Yes.
80% funding, and then we have to match the remaining 20%. I mean, we have to come up with the remaining 20%, sorry.
And we could come up with the other 20% 2 ways, as far as I can see. There are 2 avenues to do that.
Is it a reimbursement grant?
I would assume it is, because previously federal grants, the only other federal grant I dealt with was definitely reimbursement.
Okay. And Tony, did you say you think all grants are reimbursement?
Yeah, usually you have to do the work, and once the work is done, that's when you get reimbursal.
And that was certainly the way the elevator was done at Onatru, which is the only other federal grant I've ever been involved with. Okay, next. I'd like people to know, first of all, that we owe a lot of thanks to Jan Anderson for applying for a grant to rebuild the Elmwood Road culvert, which she has done with, I think, a magnificent amount of backup. And we have to be very thankful to Jan, not just for this, but the way she is working on the 3 lakes engineering grants for Kitchewan, Truesdale, and Wacabuck. And truthfully, she has done an amazing job on those.
Enough can't be said about her contribution. It's
Right.
phenomenal.
I'd like to move on to polling the board. Rich.
Peter, don't you want to go on to public comment period 2?
I'd
Before you
forgotten
go.
about that. Maybe I'm getting, yes, the public comment 2 number 2 is limited to the legalization of cannabis. Now, why would I want to do that? Because the town has got to come up on a decision relatively quickly if we want to opt out of cannabis being sold in Lewisboro. If we do nothing, it can be sold. We have to opt out if we want to. We should, however, be aware that if we opt out, we get none of the rewards of selling it. As it stands at the moment, we would get 3% of the taxes of anything sold in Lewisboro, if we approve it. If we don't approve it, we get nothing. Be aware that a substantial amount of the cost of this will fall on Lewisboro, regardless of whether we approve use in Lewisboro or not.
So
quite simple. What?
So you said if we had it locally, we would get 3% of what?
Of the revenue.
The gross revenue, the net profit?
Yes. Yes. I don't know. The gross revenue, I think.
The gross tax revenue.
The gross tax.
And
maybe, yes, Dan's right, I think.
If we opted out under the legislation, which I started to look at, which is well over 100 pages, do we have an opportunity to share in what the county as a whole would generate the same way we get a proportion, say, of sales tax?
No. Everything is set up by the state to encourage us to participate. Does that begin to answer your question? Or that's my reading. I mean, they may not admit that.
So,
but from what I've read, it's clearly biased towards encouraging municipalities to participate.
Well, I'd like to know more once we know more.
Okay.
As it's enacted, because if it's 3%, that's an issue. For example, if it's 3% of gross revenue as opposed to 3% of net profit, if there's no net profit, then the revenue that we get is zero.
Okay.
So I think
I'm sure it's a tax, mechanism, but the question is is that 3%, out of a total 7-8% tax or something like that? Or is
I
it
think
3%?
it's 3% of the gross revenue. All right.
Gross tax. So in other words, if there's a 7% tax revenue rate on that, whatever that brings in, we get 3% of that.
It's 3% of local share of tax revenue generated
3%
from
of the
sales.
local share of the tax revenue. So there's a state piece goes away, and then there's what's local, county or something?
County gets 1%.
All right, so we want to actually do the math and understand this, I guess, rather than thinking we're going to nail it down right here.
Yes,
There's gonna be
we
some tax
do
revenue,
we do need to do the math, but let's be aware of two things. That one, we're not going to know the intricate details of this before we have to agree what we're going to do. It's going to be a little bit of blind man, I think, because the details of this will be worked out by a state commission, which is not expected to report until December 31st, 22. That means, but we have to opt out if we want to by December 31st, 21. So we may not know exactly what we're doing when we opt out or shut up and just allow ourselves to opt in. I hope.
So we have until the end of the year.
Is it an
Yes.
opt-in or just an opt-out?
Sorry.
It's
I was just
it's an opt-in.
So
No,
you,
we don't have to opt in.
We
Right.
don't have to, so it's
so
opt-in.
it's an opt out. And so
Well,
And that is subject to a referendum, what do you call it, referendum?
Permissive?
Help me, Greg. What is the type of referendum which people have to request?
You're muted, Greg. You're muted, Greg. No?
No.
Or
your mic might not be working, Greg.
Yeah, something happened to your mic.
All right. There are referendums which are mandatory, and there are referendums where a certain percentage of the people have to request it.
so that's like a permissive referendum.
Yeah, a permissive referendum is the phrase I was looking for.
Okay.
And we have to allow time, if we decide to opt out, for a permissive referendum to take place and for us then to send our results to the state.
Oh, so that all has to happen before that December date.
Yes.
You have to back
and
away
that's-
from that. All right.
And that's why I'm not saying we've got to decide this month or next month, but I am saying we can't just sit on our backsides and assume that we can opt out at the last moment.
All right, so today is just an opportunity for an initial round of public input, just to see, you know, where the people who happen to be on this
That's
call
correct.
sort of.
That is correct.
that It might give us a little sense of the work we need to do to understand this better based on the questions and whatnot that we get. So it's always useful to get that process started.
It's about 100-page law. And I would be grateful to anybody who feels strongly about this to read it. All right, let's go.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Ryan Dunn, he says for a while, to unmute. Ryan? Ryan, I'm asking you to unmute. Do you hear me, Ryan?
Did he have his hand up all the time from the previous time?
He
Yes,
did,
he
but I'm
does.
just
He
giving
did.
him, right.
Oh.
So did you want to?
Can
Did
you
you
hear
want
me?
to talk, Ryan?
Yeah,
Yes, we
he's
can
on.
hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a giant problem here right now. This isn't something we need to be addressing right now as a community. It's just something that is it's just something that it's a syntax. Why are we doing this for something that doesn't need to be happening?
Okay, is that it for your comments? Okay. Next, I'm going to ask Barbara Mangione to unmute. Barbara?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I do respectfully ask, I may go over 2 minutes. I will try to get out everything as soon as I can, but I feel very strongly about this. The minute this was posted on the Facebook pages, many discussions took place. I am in no way saying that I do not feel that cannabis is necessary in medical situations. It certainly is. I do have a problem with it recreationally. There are many studies regarding it as to whether it is a gateway drug or it's not. I'm not a doctor, so I can't comment on that. However, you know, just following another item that was on our agenda recently, you know, a couple of minutes ago regarding mental health month, we have to understand that a lot of mental health issues do go hand in hand with drug use, drug abuse, or the introduction of drugs into someone's life. So I'm going to do a little bit of a story here. It's a Benjamin Button story. I'm going backwards, and I apologize, and I'll do this as quickly as I can so you know where I'm coming from. Last year, we had a horrific situation where a couple were found dead with their newborn baby over in Wakaba Cross River area. I knew that young woman. My daughter and her had danced for many years together. She was very sweet. She was very kind. Her family was wonderful. Her siblings were wonderful. My heart breaks for them. 10 years ago, I had the I'm sorry, the kids, it's really very emotional. I had the honor of knowing another young woman who had moved into our town, and her family were only here for a couple of years. I met her when she was 16 years old, and she had already been in and out of rehab probably a dozen times. Hardcore alcohol and drug user since she was 12 years old. She invited me to her 6-month ceremonies, her 1-year ceremonies. And when we would drive in the car and have these discussions, I remember one in particular stood out where she said to me, if you had 2 hours to live, what would you do with your time? And I was like, well, obviously I would spend it with my family and tell them how much I love them. And she said, well, I'm an addict and I would probably get high. She goes, and that's all we think about. And that's my struggle every single day. She was 16. 5 years ago, about 5 years after that, she had moved to Florida. They found her dead from an overdose, 20 years old. Now let me go way back to when I was a teenager, the Jurassic era. I grew up in the Bronx. Most of my friends did drugs quite frequently. I didn't. I never did. I maybe drank once or twice. I couldn't handle liquor. I never did drugs. So sometimes I hung out with them. They respected me. I respected them. Nobody forced me to do anything. And sometimes I didn't. And one night I didn't hang out with them. I didn't go with them to the local reservoir in Yonkers. And my friend who had been drinking and smoking pot decided he was going to jump into the reservoir. He never came out. He hit his head and he died, and they found his body the next day. And so let me go really, really far back, and I'll tell you where this really comes from is, and this is all very personal, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this. When I was 9 years old, my dad was killed. He was hit by a car and he was taken off of life support 2 days after that. My mother did not have the capabilities of handling a young family. The youngest of, I was 9, my youngest brother was 4. She very quickly became addicted to pills and alcohol. And probably most likely may have had a drinking problem before that, but at 9 years old, you don't know. Everything seems normal. So I'll tell you what it's like growing up with an alcoholic parent. At 9 years old, I learned how to make myself breakfast, and I learned how to make myself lunch, and I learned how to make dinner when she was too drunk to cook. By the time I was 10 or 11, I knew how to call the local cab company if she fell in the house or if she cut herself while she was cooking, because she pretty much drank all day long. By the time I was a teenager, or actually about 12 years old, in school, I would love to have her come to our shows. And at the same time, I dreaded it because I knew she'd be drunk. So, you know, when you grow up as a child with these kind of situations, everything is scary. Everything is unpredictable. You just want some normalcy. You just want some control. By the time I was 15 or 16, my main job was making sure my brother did his homework, who was younger than me, and that he wasn't getting into trouble. So when I should be out having fun, I was pretty much following him around the Bronx, making sure that he wasn't getting into trouble with drugs and alcohol. The reason I say all this is because there are many people like me out there. I'm sure there's people on the board. I'm not an anomaly. Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, any kind of addiction. It's very common. We see it in the numbers that our police, they respond to overdoses. We see it in the schools. We see all the issues in the schools. We hear about it, especially with all these lockdowns, about how people are faring. And I just don't want us to be a community that puts money over someone's mental health or their life. I don't think anybody's life is worth some more money in taxes. That's my personal opinion, and I thank you for letting me speak. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara. Next, I'm inviting Elio Machetta to unmute.
Elio Machetta, South Salem. Like it or not, this law is here thanks to the Sfachim we got in Albany. I'm not an expert, but would think it would be better to let other cities or towns that have much more resources than the town of Lewisboro to deal with letting dispensaries open. We have talented people on our board. We have an attorney. We have a man who's good with tech and communications, a man who's good with electricity. The other two, I don't know. But I don't know that anybody has the ability or the thought how to handle something at this point. We could opt out, and then we could always opt in. Let's find out what all the collateral damage gets done, and then we could jump in. But if it's a money grab, it's not worth it. Raise my taxes. Forget the 3%. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Elio. Next, I'm inviting Robin Legenzowski to unmute.
Hi. For the longtime residents here, I think we all know the tales of the brothels on 123 where everyone came to, on the weekends 100 years ago from Connecticut to enjoy themselves in Vista. And up until 2012, Connecticut didn't serve alcohol on Sundays. So everyone would come to Vista or maybe to Cross River from Ridgefield to buy alcohol. And we finally got rid of that kind of stigma of our town being, where everybody goes to party from Connecticut, because Connecticut has laws that keep their property values and keep their, image up that we don't have obviously in New York. New Canaan already has that you can't have a dispensary in New Canaan, Connecticut. So why would we want to have one in Lewisboro and have all the people who want to buy drugs come into our town, our little town with 1.5 or 2 police officers and cause possible, reckless behavior as they're smoking pot driving back to Connecticut? And we all know they do. They drink too, but now we don't have to worry about Connecticut people coming to our town to drink because they can buy alcohol on Sundays there, and the drinking age is 21 there. So I just don't think we need to go back to like being kind of the low-class neighbor of Connecticut and keep our property values up. Everything's going well. People are moving here from the pandemic. Like, why are we going to turn our town into trash again? I don't understand. So I'm a no on the dispensary. And why would that business all of a sudden be booming when no other business is booming in our town? We're not going to make any money. Let's face it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Next, I'm asking Rachel Simon to unmute. Rachel?
Evening. Thanks to the town board for their work and for folks sticking around. I want to voice my support for, I forget now if it was opting in or opting out, but allowing dispensaries in our town. I've spent time in Colorado and California and Massachusetts since marijuana has been legal in those states. And the dispensaries are much more like Apple stores than brothels, but I've never been to a brothel. But that, I imagine, I've seen them in movies. I assume that the long law has zoning considerations so that they won't be placed near schools. That's something that would be important to me. But I think that these tax benefits are going to come, and they're going to come, if not here, then to our nearby neighbors. And why not enjoy those benefits? There's all this rhetoric about marijuana that we've gotten for a long time from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America, which is just an organization of alcohol and tobacco organizations. We've got plenty of liquor stores in town, and the responsible store owners enforce the age limits. I think that it would be really useful. And I know that part of the very long 100-page law also includes support for folks struggling with addiction, which I know is a concern for many people. And thanks for your time and have a good night.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Next, I'm asking Carol Cernak to unmute. Carol?
Carol Cernak, South Salem. I just want to say I appreciate everybody's opinions on this. I understand people have very sensitive issues about addiction and drug use and stuff like that. I'm not sure that, this is a legal storefront we're talking about opening, and I'm not sure we have any ground to say we don't want it? I mean, wouldn't that be discrimination? To say that everybody who comes and buys legalized marijuana is a drug addict or is a bad person. I think, a lot of people, are using pot, and you might not even know it. PhDs, doctors, lawyers, policemen. I mean, it's everywhere, widespread within our entire community. So, and in a way, what everybody's saying, although I respect everybody's opinion, it screams an elitist attitude. If you're not going to allow the legal cannabis and that, shut the bars down, shut the restaurants down, shut the liquor stores down. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Now I'm asking, I believe it's Martha Goodman to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. First, I wanted to ask a question. Mr. Parsons said the cost will fall on Lewisboro whether or not we approve the use. Did he mean the sale, not the use? Because we're not talking about legislating the use here. And then the cost of what will fall on Lewisboro? So I didn't understand that sentence, and it seemed to be important. The other thing I would say is my vote would definitely be a no vote. If it's legal and adults want to consume, they have the right to do that, and they can certainly drive to a neighboring town to do that. We have actually a large problem with addiction and drug use in our youth. It's one that many people don't want to face. As a family, we have faced this recently. I have a 19-year-old son who is now 10 months sober. So we're very proud of him, but it's been a struggle. There are quite a few other children I know of in the area with the same struggle. And I just think the message is problematic. I don't know what else to say except please no. And I understand some people think there's no difference between. I mean, alcohol can be a problem also, but we're not legislating that. So anyhow, no, I'm not too eloquent on this subject, but please no. Thank you. Bye.
All right, thank you, Martha. Next, I'm asking Glenn to unmute. Glenn?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Glenn DeFaber?
Yeah, Glenn DeFaber. I have no problem with legalized marijuana. I just feel that Lewisboro is not set up for that kind of arrangement. Doesn't have a central business district. Marijuana is not like alcohol. It's regarded more like cigarettes. I could smoke it on any public property in Lewisboro, blowing it into your face, and you could do nothing about it. Alcohol, you can't do that. I don't think the moral authority we could tell our children not to do drugs because we're getting 3% of the gross sales. So if we were to make if they were to have $1 million in sales, we'd get $30,000. $30,000, what is that? It doesn't make sense. Let some other locality have it. If people want to buy it there, let them go there. They will come here to find it. We don't need that happening. And trust me, nobody smokes marijuana. I should say this, nobody doesn't smoke marijuana driving to and from the location. Colorado has had an increase in car accidents. Is that what we want in our town? The money is not worth it. Simply put, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Glenn. Now I'm asking Thomas Dunn to unmute.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. I think in a town such as ours, which I think of several people have brought up, we have a history of drug and alcohol abuse in this town with some of our younger members and quite frankly some of our older members. But I don't think we need to be bringing this in, and it just seems like it's something for a pittance in a revenue generation scheme, and it just doesn't seem right. I mean, it's something we're welcoming in another vice just to earn some revenue. It just seems stupid. So thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Next, I'm inviting Nicholas Buczynski.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
I mean, I wasn't planning on speaking on this, but just a couple of things that were brought up. The first being that I'm thinking about my children. I'm thinking about my kids, and we lived in New York City, and it was still illegal. We experienced walking through, to see my in-laws, and just the waft of, which was coming out of the apartments, and having my daughters have to walk through that cloud of smoke, I think is a concern for any parent, especially when you have toddlers or young. So with what was said about the smoking in public, New York City toughened up their smoking in public laws, like they put the ranges. So I think we might want to consider that, as far as, it's not like tobacco smoke. This is something that you could smell it a block away. At least, when I lived, in the towers of the city. The other thing on this is this might be a null issue. A lot of my family comes from Michigan. They dealt with this 3 years ago. And what actually is happening is, I think a lot of us are thinking of a dispensary that's like a physical place to go. But the reality is, and I just Googled it right now, there's delivery services. So you could have a dispensary where, in the privacy of someone's credit card and their app on their phone, they get it delivered to them, and there's no physical place. So maybe we could think about, if we do allow the dispensary and get the 3% that everybody else is going to get, or there's going to be deliveries coming in, if not, that we just define what that will be allowed, under the town code, that, they have to do delivery service only. And then we don't have that physical space. And then the issue that was brought up about, car accidents, hey, it's getting delivered to your house like a pizza. So for those that have medical or whatever, in the privacy of their home, they're allowed to do it under this state law. We should redefine, like, what can we decide as a local town? This has already been passed at the state level, but how can we best manage it? All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. And that appears to be it.
Good input.
That's it. Did you say, Janet?
I said that appears to be it.
Okay, in that case, I'd like to move on to approval of claims. I'd like to propose that we approve the claims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to poll the board. Rich?
Yeah, it's just, I guess, two things I wanted to briefly mention. First of all, I've mentioned it like over a period of time about possibly having a grant writing committee in town. We took up the grants that we had the motions to move forward on those, which is great. I think that based upon the resources in our town, I know we have a lot of people that are in the not-for-profit world and have certain expertise in this area. I think having a grant writing committee to see if there's interest, where people in town could identify potential grants and just be focused on that during the course of the year, might be a tremendous resource that could pay potentially big dividends for our town. I think that's something that we should explore to see if there's interest. I think that would be a great beneficial committee that we should explore the possibility of having. Second and last, and I am extremely sorry to say this. I didn't intend to bring it up, but I believe the Sustainable Westchester presentation tonight was a bit inappropriate for our town board meeting, and it made me feel a bit uncomfortable. Thank you.
Tony.
Okay. So a couple of things. Let's see. 9X. There was a question about 9X and the power outages and what we're doing. I will be putting out a statement to that effect. I do have some questions into 9X regarding the existing project that's ongoing in Vista. That was a project that they presented to us at a meeting on October 1st. They did say it was going to be kicked off in April, and so they're on target with doing that, where they will be installing taller and stronger utility poles and also putting a redundant circuit to the Pound Ridge 455 circuit, which is the one that had been prone to outages and comes out of a substation located in Pound Ridge. And the hope there is, of course, with that redundancy, if that circuit from the south goes down because of trees, usually it's because of trees and bad weather, although they've done quite a bit of tree mitigation, which has decreased the number of tree-related outages. The electricity will be fed from a circuit coming down from the north. So that's an improvement. I'm waiting to get status on potential impacts in terms of controlled outages while they're doing that work. So hope to have that feedback soon. In terms of the numbers and the quantifying the outages, I have heard from a lot of people that the outages have minimized. They have done work with improving the infrastructure in terms of what they already had to shorten the duration of outages. There was some problems with that initially where those systems were overly sensitive. They were readjusted, and we no longer have those short intermittent outages that we were experiencing in the Vista and Oak Ridge area. So that's the update on 9. Oh, actually, there was another question about the PSC. So yes, we did do work with PSC. We were on many phone calls at the county level where the PSC was involved. There is a 93-page document that was a result of that work with the PSC and the county and our state representatives. Peter Parsons was actually on a commission for one of the task force groups that were created. So Bill Bongiorno, I can actually point you to that document if you're interested in reading through it. In terms of Oak Ridge, there were some questions about that. So just a quick update. So we did have, when I got on the board, we had an issue with trihalomethanes, which were above the Department of Health levels. That was specific to the houses over on Conant Valley. We did the work to mitigate that. There's extra flushing that's done at those homes to control those levels and keep them below the maximum contamination level. And that has been successful. That work was done in 2019. There is of course, the sediment issue, which has been ongoing since I've been on the board. And that was, we hope, is going to be resolved with the flushing improvements or the flush valve installations that we did and hydrant upgrades that we performed over the winter. There is flushing that's going on this week that's going to take advantage of those new flush hydrants and valves. And so hopefully that'll get rid of the sediment that's been trapped at the dead ends into each of the buildings. We believe that that's where most of the sediment is coming from. So that work is underway. We do have the recent issues with the PFOS levels being above the newly defined maximum contaminant levels, which the state set in August of last year, where we exceeded the 10 parts per trillion last month. The sampling was done. That well, and that was measured at the raw water coming out of the wells. So that well has been taken offline, and another well is being used in its place. The parts per trillion level going into the system or distributed to the homes are below that. They were recently measured last week. They're between 7 and 7.7, I believe it was. But we are now putting a plan in place to add these granular activated carbon filtration systems, to which we're applying for this grant. It is going to require building an extension to the existing water plant. And so hopefully we'll finalize that plan soon. But for the meantime, the PFOS levels are below the newly defined standards within New York State of 10 parts per trillion. And we hope to get that project hopefully on the way, but it's going to take some time. So that's the Oak Ridge issue. Salt Dome, that was brought up. So yes, I did have a visit with our planning engineer about a week and a half ago. They made some recommendations in terms of what Hickory Homes needs to do to clean up the site. But I do have to do more work in terms of determining next steps with that operation that's ongoing there at the Salt Dome. So I will have some updates on that, and we'll discuss it with the town board. And I think that is all that I have for now. So thank you all very much for coming out tonight.
Jane.
Just a couple of things. I wanted to thank Janet and Lauren for taking that initiative on behalf of NAMI and bringing mental illness conversation, awareness, and education to the forefront. I myself have been encouraged by seeing those kinds of ribbons around, and so I look forward to them being around this month and thank them for their effort there. I also wanted to take this opportunity to talk about, mental health as a system in general. Like so many systems, it may serve some, but it doesn't serve all. And I think there are creative ways to look at mental health treatment and mental health support. And I encourage anybody who is interested in that and kind of an alternative community building source to look at mutual aid and what that looks like and what that may have to offer you, and look at your disability justice training resources. And people are building communities around support of this and supporting each other peer to peer, and it's very successful. So if people are already introduced and interested in a next step, I suggest looking up some mutual aid. And then I also just wanted to put out there that the emergency like mental health number in Westchester County and beyond is 211. So if you're having an emergency and it's a mental health emergency, please dial 211. It's also Autism Awareness Month. And so I wanted to put out a resource that I've become familiar with called the Autism Self-Advocacy Network. This is a group of adult individuals who have come together to start an organization to advocate for themselves, right? So their voices to center. So if people are interested in that, please do check it out. And thank you. That's it for me.
Dan.
Nothing for me, thanks. Other than to thank everybody. The input was great for the dispensary issue. And it's complex, and I'm looking forward to continuing that dialogue.
I've got 3 points I'd like to make. First of all, I kind of object to attacks on my wife. We've been married for 54 years, and we manage that in great part by respecting each other's ability to have their own point of view. And she took a strong point of view on this, as she takes a relatively strong point of view on politics, where she is a strong Republican, whereas I think most people know I am actually a Democrat. That's how I believe partnerships last and are good partnerships, is when we accept that each individual is also an individual. Next, Memorial Day. We have decided not to have a parade because I don't think we can control the crowd which a parade generates. We still would need masks, and we still would need social distancing, and that would be almost impossible to enforce in the center of South Salem. What we will do is to have a ceremony at the townhouse exactly as we had last year, Will it have huge numbers of people? No, but it will be filmed and it will be put on Channel 20. The third thing, the gentleman who will film it and put it on Channel 20 is Henry Wolf. Henry has decided that he should bring up his past, in which when he was 3, he was actually arrested by the Nazis and put in a detention camp with the likelihood of being shipped to Auschwitz. Thank goodness he wasn't. But I think it's important, and I praise him no end for not being quiet about this past any longer, but making it public. And because I believe it's really important that we remember the atrocities of the Nazi regime and of the Second World War. I know the camp where he was confined, not because I was confined there, but I used to drive past it sort of twice a week when I lived in Brussels. And I've got the greatest respect for Henry surviving that and now being prepared to go public with what he went through. There was an article in the Post last weekend about him and some other people who were confined with him. And I believe there is a book just being issued, which also focuses on the group of children of whom he was a part. That's it. The next town board meeting is on April 26, 2021 at 7:30 via remote access. There, Janet, I remembered.
Bravo.
And I would like to propose that we adjourn to executive session. Do I have a second?
To discuss.
Oh, to discuss appointment to a committee.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah.
Discussion.
I just wanted to make a brief note. I understand that the executive order for virtual meetings has been extended to May 6th. So.
Yes. And I would also like to bounce back a second and say that I would like the board to extend, what do I need to do, Tony? The state of emergency?
Yeah, we need to extend the exemption for outdoor dining that we had established last year that expired in December.
Okay, I'd like to extend that for 6 months if I can. Can I, Greg?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
My microphone on? I didn't turn it off. So that was a local law that expired as of the end of as of 12/31/20. So you would have to do it the same way you enacted it by proposing a local law and having a public hearing that extends that exemption from that part of your zoning code for whatever period of time, whether it's 6 months or the entire calendar year. And I spoke to Councilman Gonsalves about it today. It's something that you're going to consider, I'm assuming, the same law with just a different deadline date.
Yes.
So I can get it to.
Exactly the same law. And if I can get a vote in favor, I would like to set a public hearing for 2 weeks now.
The only question I had there was the 239M. You guys, if you have it in the paper by Friday, you'll be good on your notice side, but technically it's a zoning change. So it does receive 239M referral.
Not a zoning change.
Well, it's an amendment to your zoning code. It's not a zoning change. It's an amendment to your zoning code, and that's subject to 239M of the general municipal law. So it does require referral to Westchester County Planning.
Okay, we will send it to Westchester County Planning. We will send it to the planning board as well.
Peter, can I recommend we extend it till the end of the year?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
But it's pretty cold.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We need to back up a little bit. I thought we had adjourned the meeting, and just with the way that I work, it turned off. I'm sorry. But what business are we discussing here?
We passed a regulation or a law allowing restaurants to serve people outside.
Right. And so we're okay.
And that has expired.
Okay.
And all we want to do is to reinstate that law.
Okay. Great.
Through to the end of the year.
Thank you, Peter.
Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense.
So I will send the law to the board tomorrow with the new extension date, 12/31/21, for your comment, and then presumably we can get it on we'd have the public hearing in 2 weeks.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg.
You are welcome. Glad my mic's working.
Okay, so we're going to.
Well, I'm asking
Good with
Peter
that,
to
Red?
unmute, so,
Peter has to unmute.
yeah. No, Peter, you gotta unmute. Oh, he's not listening.
Hold on.
You were muted, Peter.
Peter, you have to unmute.
There you go.
Okay, it's good. He's back.
Yep.
So
good old fashioned approach.
High tech.
All right.
So we need a motion to set that hearing, right?
Yes.
And
Let's make a motion to set that hearing.
I don't mean to be a stickler, but during the polling of the board, or are we adjourned?
no, we're not adjourned until we
Adjourn.
resolve to adjourn. So we're fine.
Okay, great.
Yes, we're doing things backwards. You're right,
No.
Jane.
Go ahead.
My fault, sorry.
Oh, it's great. We should get this in. This is good.
With the need to do this.
Yeah.
And I suddenly saw it on Tony's face, I think. So we will do it.
Thank you.
Because he's been
seconded it?
working all day to get this done.
So who seconded it?
Tony,
second it.
20 seconds.
Okay,
Okay.
all in favor?
Discussion?
Aye.
All in favor, aye.
All right.
Thank you, Tony.
Welcome.
All right. I guess I should make the motion to go into executive session again to discuss an appointment to a committee.
Second.